Good morning. So this morning we'll be discussing the book, The Seven Spiritual Laws of Success by Deepak Chopra. And I really just felt like, for myself, I knew I would be thinking about setting some new intentions for the new year. And I wanted to read something and just remind myself of those spiritual laws that are at work in our universe at all times, and really make sure that those intentions I was setting for the new year were in congruence with those laws, and just really starting out my year the best that I could. So I thought I'd bring you guys along on that journey since I had this class scheduled for early January. So Deepak talks about the seven spiritual laws of success as being universal laws and things that are ever present and always working at all times within our universe. So first I wanted to look at definitions of a couple of things. So Deepak defines success as the continued expansion of happiness and the progressive realization of worthy goals, as well as the ability to fulfill our desires with effortless ease. And so for part of this book, he is talking about wealth abundance, because he pulled some of this out of another text that he had written, and it was about how to create monetary affluence in your life. But he reminds us that success can also include things like good health, fulfilling relationships, or peace of mind. So as we talk about success and as we talk about abundance in this discussion, we're talking about, abundance in all areas of your life or any area of your life that you are currently setting intentions for. He defines a spiritual law of the universe as a process by which the unmanifest is becoming manifest, and the process by which divinity or consciousness is in motion. So this is just how the universe creates. And, everything that is now manifest was at one point just a thought, just an idea of something in this physical world. The same laws of nature that are used to create the physical world can be applied to our lives and fulfill our deepest desires as well. They're ever present. It's just the inner workings. And he reminds us of that several times. So here's the list of the seven spiritual laws of success that Deepak addresses in this text. I will say for time today, there's always so much good stuff in a book that I'm presenting, and I always start out with way more information than I can possibly get through. And then I have to condense it down to just, the highlights. So that's what we're going to do today, is really just do a highlight and a reminder about each of these laws. And then he has a section at the end of each law that he addresses about how we can, some practical ways that we can apply this law to our life. And that's really just, some of that could be done as a journaling exercise, or it could be a thought that you hold as you're going into meditation, something like that. So at the end of each section, we'll just do the highlights of each law, and then some of his ways to apply that in your spiritual practice so that you are getting more in tune with that law in your life. So we'll start out with the law of pure potentiality. And this law just, is what we know, that we are pure potentiality, we are spiritual essence, we are pure consciousness, and that we are constantly in a field of all possibilities, and that is infinite creativity. So that's just who we are at the nature, as our nature humans. That's our natural state, and we all have that innate essence. Now, some of us aren't as in tune with it as others, but it's there nonetheless. And that the more we experience our true self, which is being truly in touch with that inner spirit, he refers to that as self-referral. And when we're being influenced by objects outside of the self, such as circumstances, people, or things, that's when we're in object referral. Object referral, he just reminds us that that is a fear-based place to be. And this was a good reminder for me to realize that when you're letting those external events control how you're feeling or how you're experiencing life, that really is a fear-based place, because you're always having to seek the approval of others, or you're anticipating responses of others. And that's what's shaping your actions and your behavior, is your need to control things and control how other people are feeling about you and how other people are perceiving you. And you're really seeking external power instead of internal power in those instances. So when we're in a state of self-referral, we have the absence of fear because we're fully sitting into our self-power. And that's when we're not struggling for approval. We don't have the compulsion to control situations outside of ourselves. We aren't seeking that external power anymore, so it doesn't really have any impact on us, which makes us immune to criticism, even from our own selves. And that we, not only do we not feel inferior to anyone else, but we also are humble in not feeling superior to anyone else. Because when you're truly tapped into that self-power, you're tapped into the unity of all things and your unity with all of humankind. He also reminds us that self-power is permanent, because that's our true essence again. It's based in the awareness and knowledge of our true self, that spirit within. And when we are sitting in that place, when we have tapped into that, when we're in the flow of that, it draws people to you. And not only does it draw people to you, but it draws the things to you that you might be desiring. It becomes a magnet, and the universe responds by putting people and situations and circumstances in your path that will support the desires of your heart. And it's really a supportive divinity, and a bonding with people and energy that comes from true love. So when you're in that flow and you're experiencing through that flow of true love, then all things that are in alignment with that are drawn to you like a magnet. So applying the law of pure potentiality, he says, first we must access the field of pure potentiality. And so ways that you might access that field is a daily practice of silence or meditation. And he does suggest 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes in the evening as being a nice goal for anyone who wants to have a regular spiritual practice where they can really tap into that field of pure potentiality. He also talks about a daily practice of non-judgment, and getting up in the morning and saying, today I will judge nothing and no person. And then as we go throughout the day, if we catch ourselves judging a situation or judging a person or even judging ourselves, that we would just gently stop and remind ourselves that today I choose to judge nothing and no one, and then move on, and just let that become a practice of recognizing when we are casting judgment and reminding ourselves gently that that keeps us out of the field of pure potentiality. He also talks about spending time in nature and really connecting with the divine and our inner spirit through appreciating and being in nature more often. The next is the law of giving and receiving. And this is just a reminder that the universe operates through a dynamic exchange, that the flow of life is, interactions of all the elements and forces that structure the field of existence, and that there's a constant flow of energy happening there. And that we as humans, that our human body is connected to that exchange. And so we're constantly in the dynamic exchange with the universe. And he has this section in there where he talks about when we stop the flow of energy, when we're doing things, when we're getting into that object referral and just doing other things that are kind of stopping that flow of energy. It's just like stopping the flow of blood in our body. And what happens when we stop the flow of blood in our body is that it starts to coagulate and it stagnates, and it starts to impact other systems within our body if the blood flow isn't working as it should. And so he says that's the same thing that happens when we stop this flow of energy, or when we're not aware of the things that we're doing that are hindering the natural dynamic exchange of energy. And we start to see it have a ripple effect on other areas of our life. And as soon as we can remove that blockage and get back in the flow of that dynamic exchange, we start to see all of these changes happen throughout our lives. So I really liked that. And he talks about the fact that you have to give and receive to keep anything that you want circulating in your life. Like it's a cycle, it's a give and take, it's a flow. So you have to be giving and receiving in order to keep that moving. He talks about the return being directly proportional to the giving when it's given unconditionally and from the heart. So there has to be, it's the exchange of energy with the giving. So whether you're giving something of material value, or whether you're giving love or blessings or whatever that is, it has to be joyful giving, and it has to create joy within the receiver to complete that cycle of exchange and allow that to come back to you in direct proportion to the joy that you expended in giving and that the receiver felt in receiving. That's what completes the cycle. And so he says in doing that, the easiest way to get things that you want is to help others get things that they want, because then you're cycling joy. You are creating a dynamic exchange of that unconditional giving, the joy that you feel in being able to help someone else accomplish what they're wanting out of life. And then they feel the joy of receiving that. And then all of that energy comes back to you in direct proportion. And again, a reminder that that doesn't always have to be physical things. It doesn't have to be money. It doesn't have to be material objects. That could be giving blessings to people, giving, doing a simple prayer for someone. He talks about that it could even be, even if you're talking about material gifts, it doesn't have to be cars and yachts and houses. It could be, giving someone a single flower, giving someone a handwritten note of appreciation. Those are all things that you could do with great joy that would also create joy for the receiver. Applying the law of giving and receiving, that we just have to make a decision to start the process of circulation and deciding that we're going to give to others. And he talks about giving, making a decision, whether it be for the day or for a week or whatever period of time, to say, every person that I come in contact today, I will give them something. And that's where that giving could be just a silent blessing or a silent prayer for their well-being or for their desires. And then watch how that energy starts to flow back. He also talks about really practicing gratefully receiving the gifts that others have to offer. And when you think about the fact that that's what is creating the exchange for them, and it's keeping your flow going, we can a lot of us are not that good at gratefully receiving gifts or compliments or blessings from others. And, he says we need to practice that and be able to feel the joy of the receiving just as much as we feel the joy of the giving, to keep that exchange going. He also talks about really consciously receiving the gifts of nature. So sitting in gratitude for things like the sunlight or a bird singing or the first snowfall of the season, and making sure that we are being aware that those are gifts that are given to us in this physical manifestation. Next is the law of karma, or also known as the law of cause and effect. And this is the idea that both the action and the consequence of the action are happening simultaneously. That it's kind of like throwing that rock in the water and watching the ripples. Like, you don't throw the rock and then an hour later the ripples start. It's as soon as you throw the rock, those ripples start, and then they continue for a really long time. And so he says, like, that's all happening simultaneously in the realm of energy, and that every action is going to generate a force of energy that returns to us in like kind. So it's the same as that exchange of joy that we were just talking about. It's, we're putting those actions and we're making those decisions that go out there, and then we have things returned to us that are in like kind. So if we're putting, this is, positive energy attracts positive energy. So whatever we're putting out there is what is trying to find us as well. He talks about us all being infinite choice makers in the field of all possibilities, and that everything that happens is a result of choices we've made, whether consciously or unconsciously. And I know Sue has talked about this so frequently, that even when we're not acting or when we're not making a choice, choices are being made. There is a flow happening. There is an energy exchange happening. And so if we aren't consciously making choices about how that energy is going to flow in our lives, then it just is happening, based on other choices that are being made around us, or the fact that we're not making a choice. The universe doesn't really know how to support where we want to be with things and what we're trying to do. And so we may not be receiving the energy that we ultimately desire. He talks about the more that you can bring choices into the level of your conscious awareness, the more likely it is that you're going to make choices that are in alignment with your desires. And he uses the term spontaneously correct. So really kind of tuning that inner system to be able to make those conscious choices as we're moving through life that are going to be the next right step and the next right step and the next right step, to get us to where we're trying to go. And that as we become conscious choice makers, we start to generate actions that are not only evolutionary for ourselves, but for those around us. Because again, it's like those ripples in the water, that as we start to consciously make those choices that are impacting what is coming to us, that can't help but impact the energy and the field of possibilities for those around us as well, because we're all connected. And so those who are in our, like in our bubble, are going to feel the impact of those changes that we're making and that energy that's cycling to us. Applying the law of karma. So he talks about really, again, making a decision to say, I'm going to witness the choices that I make in each moment, and I'm going to bring them into my conscious awareness, and I'm going to practice that. And so kind of setting that intention maybe in the morning, and, just really tuning in throughout the day to bring choices into the conscious awareness. He talks about whenever we're making a choice, asking two questions. The first being, what are the consequences of this choice? And try to think through some of the things that might occur if this choice is made. And will this choice bring fulfillment and happiness to me and to those affected by this choice? Because, we're all making choices for ourselves, but I think if we recognize that we're interconnected, and especially those that are occupying the same space as us, or that they are closely connected to us on a daily basis, our choices do have an effect on others around us. And ultimately to all of humanity, but especially to those who are in our direct vicinity. So he says, really asking, is it going to bring fulfillment and happiness to me and to those that are affected by this choice? And see, what that brings up for you. He also talks about asking your heart for guidance, and that we have an internal system from spirit that's connected to spirit that really will help guide us as if we learn to pay attention to it. And so he talks about, as we're asking those questions, and looking at, is this a good choice? Is this the right choice for me in this moment, to really sit with it? And he says, internally you will get either a feeling of comfort or discomfort with most choices. And it may take a minute to get in tune with it, but if you get in tune with it, it's always going to be there, that you'll have this feeling of comfort and peace. And he says, if you're feeling that feeling of comfort with a choice, well, then, you can plunge ahead with abandon, because that is on your path, and it's going to be a good circulation of energy for you. But if you feel discomfort, he says, that's a moment to pause and really consider, okay, what are the consequences of this action that I might not have thought about initially, or that might create a situation that I wasn't intending, and to really just sit with what is feeling uncomfortable about that choice, and that will help guide us to what maybe is a choice that's more in alignment with our desires, or in creating happiness for ourselves and others. And that it just takes time to kind of, I keep saying tune in, but like tap in, or to strengthen that intuition of being able to tell in the moment, as I'm bringing choices into my conscious awareness, that not only am I conscious of the choices I'm making, but I'm conscious of what my inner guidance system is telling me is a comfortable choice or an uncomfortable choice. And not just that it's uncomfortable because it's uncertain, because we'll talk about that later. It's really that the discomfort, knowing when the discomfort is, this is not a choice that's going to bring you the energy that you're hoping for. Next is the law of least effort. And this says that nature's intelligence functions with effortless ease and abandoned carefreeness. So, he talks about things like a fish doesn't have to try to swim. A bird doesn't have to try to fly. The earth doesn't have to try to spin on its axis. Those are just like the natural state of those beings. And there's just an innate ability to do those things. Because that's what they're here to do. And so our nature as humans is to be able to manifest and do other things. So he says the principle of least action is really when you're talking about non-resistance, which we talk about a lot in Unity, and that it's a principle of harmony and love, that as things are happening in harmony, and if they're coming from that place of true love and they're resonating with the love of the universe, it's just going to seem easy. You don't have to force it. You just know that it is the right decision and it's the right path for you. And again, that it's human nature to make our dreams manifest into physical form easily and effortlessly. It is the gift of humanity, of our humanness, being divine beings that have come to have this physical experience, we have this innate nature that allows us to connect to the energy of the universe and manifest things into physical form. He talks about the fact that what we often consider miracles, or what people see as miracles, it's really an expression of this law. It's the fact that something was so in tune with the love energy and the creation and the field of pure potentiality, that something happens that is, you know, like I said, completely connected to that field of possibility. And it happens in such a way that is so easy and effortless that it seems otherworldly, and people refer to it as a miracle because it doesn't seem like something that we should be able to do if we're not, you know, if, especially people who aren't familiar with that field of possibilities. He says when we're in harmony with nature, we're in harmony with the knowledge of our true self, and that least effort is expended when actions are motivated by love, because nature is held together by the energy of love. So I was just saying there that, you know, when we're fully present in that energy and we are connected to the great love that is flowing in that field of pure potentiality, that's when we have, everything seems easy. It just seems effortless. It seems like everything we need in any given moment is just placed right in our path, whether that be physical things or circumstances or people, and it just keeps flowing and flowing. That's truly being in the flow. And that allows energy, when we're in the flow, energy just multiplies and accumulates, and that's where our power to use that surplus energy, we can start to really channel and create anything that we're desiring. Applying the law of least effort, he talks about really practicing acceptance and knowing that this moment is exactly as it should be. So this is really about kind of like living in the now moment, being present to the now moment and having acceptance that this place right now, right here, is exactly where you were meant to be, and what's transpiring is exactly what was meant to be happening. You can take responsibility for the situation and those events you see as problems. And he talks about taking responsibility just in knowing that the laws of the universe are in action, and that, you know, that choices have guided where you are in this very moment, but not in a way that's not blaming yourself, not blaming others, not blaming external circumstances, really just having that acceptance, and taking the responsibility that you have the power through your true self, you know, to make changes, and knowing that every problem is really an opportunity in disguise, that everything that we define as a problem is really there to teach us and help move us on our path. Maybe it's to guide us to knowing, oh, that choice, had I really been in tune with that inner guidance system, maybe I would have felt the discomfort that told me that wasn't going to be, you know, the best choice for me, for my higher self in this moment. And that we need to remain established in defenselessness. Sorry, that we have to relinquish the need to defend our point of view, and that we have to stay open to the point of view of others, and just really not be attached to the fact that, that we know better than the universe in any situation. Because once we start to try to attach to that idea of my point of view is the best, or my opinion is what matters, or I'm right and you're wrong, all of those things are things that start to block the flow of energy, and then we're stagnating and coagulating that energy instead of getting in the flow of the eternal exchange. Next is the law of intention and desire. And this is that energy and information exists everywhere in nature. We have a nervous system that's capable of being aware of that energy and information and gives rise to our physical body. And that's one of the gifts of humanity, is that our nervous system allows us to be aware of the energy that is flowing through us, and to know that our body is not separate from the body of the universe. So we can consciously change the informational content of our own body, environment, world, or cause things to manifest in it, because we are that connected to the universe. And so once we tap into the awareness of that, we have all of the power that that brings. He says that as long as you're not violating the other laws of nature, like you can't command something or channel energy to do something that's in direct opposition to the other laws of nature, and, you know, get what you want, that's not going to work. But as long as you're not violating those other laws, then you truly can fulfill all your dreams and desires through intent. And he says intent is desire without attachment to the outcome. And so that means that we can stay present in the moment. We give attention to the present. We accept the present for what it is. And then we can set an intention for the future and manifest a future version of events or a future, you know, something, whether that be a circumstance or an object, but recognizing that all manifestation of future events is happening right now in this present moment, that it's created in the present. So we can't lose our attention to the present moment, because that's where the energy flow is coming from. So if we get our attention shifted too far into the future and we forget to pay attention to what we're doing in this now moment, we're also not in the flow of that energy. Applying the law of intention and desire, making a list of desires and giving it attention before silence or meditation, before we go to sleep at night. So this would also, like vision boarding, would be kind of what he's talking about here, that we release those desires and surrender to the womb of creation, trusting that there's a cosmic plan. And so this is, you know, that we release the attachment of things happening in a certain way, and just know that when we're ready for those things to come into manifestation in our lives, then they will. And then a reminder to practice being in the present moment, accepting it for what it is, and knowing that I'm manifesting the future through my intentions in this very moment right now. Next is the law of detachment. And he says, in order to acquire anything in the physical universe, we have to relinquish our attachment to it. So it's not that we don't have an intention or a desire for something. It's just that we're not attached to the result, or attached to the how. And so again, we've heard Sue talk about this a lot. You know, you've got to get out of the how. And detachment is based on the unquestioning belief in the power of your true self. So if you are really rooted in that true power and that power of spirit, the power of self within you, then you don't have to be attached to the outcome, because you know whatever is going to serve your highest good is on its way to you right in this very moment, and that the universe is always listening to the true desires of your heart, and putting those things into motion that will bring those into your life. So you don't have to be attached. You can detach from that outcome and be grounded in the wisdom of uncertainty. You know, there really is nothing that is certain. There's things that we think are going to happen. There's things that we hope are going to happen. But really, we're not certain of anything. And so if you are in the wisdom of uncertainty, then you really have the freedom to create anything, because nothing's set in stone. He talks about when we get attached, we're locked into rigidity and we lose that creativity. We lose that flow. We get so locked into it has to happen this certain way that we might miss some of the other possibilities that are there. And so detachment, again, doesn't interfere with having an intention or a desire. It just says, I know that there's an infinite number of ways that I can get from point A to point B. So I'm going to, think about point B as the goalpost. And then I'm just going to be excited about how the universe puts things in my path that get me there. And I'm not going to be rigid and think that it can only happen in one way. And that allows us to stay alert to all of the different possibilities. Applying the law of detachment, allow yourself and others the freedom to be who they are without imposing those should be's or those solutions that I know what's right. And if you just do what I say, it's all going to work out. Factor uncertainty into the equation as an essential ingredient of your experience. Again, we're not really certain of anything. We have things that are patterns of behavior. We have, we might know someone and know how they might typically respond to something, but it's all uncertainty when we're swimming in this field of all possibilities. And step into that field with excitement. Remain open to the infinite number of choices that there are for any given thing to happen. The law of dharma, or purpose in life, that we've taken this manifestation in physical form to fulfill a purpose, and that each of us has a unique talent and a way of expressing that is different than anyone else alive today. We all have something that we do at a level that is unlike anyone else, and that expressing that talent creates unlimited wealth and abundance. If we can really tap into that and find a way to express that unique talent or ability in a way that brings us the greatest amount of joy and brings the greatest amount of joy to others, that's truly where we'll see unlimited wealth and abundance in all areas of our life. He says, we are here to discover our true self. What is it that's desiring to manifest through us? What is that spirit call that is, just sitting there waiting to express through us when we're ready to be that expression? That we are here to express our unique talents, and that we're here to be in service to humanity and be in awareness of our unity with all things. He talks about applying the law of dharma, or purpose in life, that we need to lovingly nurture the spirit within that animates our mind and body, and really take time sitting with that and getting in touch with that Christness inside of us, with that spirit inside of us, with whatever you want to call that. That we could make a list of our unique talents or activities that we love to do. And he says, really the things that use our unique talents are the things that we do where we completely lose all track of time, or where we absolutely feel just like high on life as we're doing them, or overwhelming joy when we get to sit in those activities or use those talents. Like, those are the things that we're talking about with making a list of unique talents. And then asking ourselves on a daily basis, how can I serve? How can I help? And looking for ways that we can use those unique talents that make us feel so much joy in a way that makes others feel joy, and adds to that dynamic exchange and adds to the uplifting of humanity as a whole, and especially those in our close circle. So that was a really fast run through, but like I said, it really just made me feel a little more grounded in starting out this year, and just a reminder that these laws are always at work in my life, and bringing pieces of those into my awareness and into my daily practice is really just going to strengthen all of those intentions that I might be setting for the new year. So he leaves us with this. The universal mind choreographs everything that is happening in billions of galaxies and with elegant precision and unfaltering intelligence. Its intelligence is ultimate and supreme, and it permeates every fiber of existence, from the smallest to the largest, from the atom to the cosmos. Everything that is alive is an expression of this intelligence, and this intelligence operates through the 7 spiritual laws. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed that quick refresher. For most that are watching, I would imagine that is kind of a review or a reminder of some things that you've heard elsewhere. If it is new to you, I really encourage you to, grab this book and maybe read the entire thing, or get in touch with some other materials that talk about different laws of the universe and how you can use those by stepping into your true power to get all the desires of your heart. I hope that everyone is having a wonderful weekend, and I say namaste, friends.